Hey guys, so welcome back, and today's video we're going to talk about hoisting. So what is hoisting in JavaScript? So hoisting is a concept or behavior in JavaScript where a declaration of a function, so I'm reading here, a declaration of a function, a variable, or a class goes to the top of the scope they are defined in. So let me show you something. So let's create a function. Let's say function greet me. Then here just console.log hello. All right. So this is the function. So what happens if I access this function before I declare it? So let me run this code. So node index.js. So you can see we are able to execute this function even before it is declared. So this is the power of hoisting. This is what hoisting is. So as we have said, hoisting is the concept or behavior in JavaScript where the declaration of a function, a variable, or a class goes to the top of the scope they are defined in. So this is what hoisting means. So let me show you something else. Let me create yet another function inside this createMe function and call it function createMe2. And then this one console.logs hello 2. So what will happen if I try to access greetme 2? So we first access greetme2. So what will happen? So let's see. So we get greetme2 is not defined. So this is yet another concept of hoisting. So hoisting, yes, occurs, but hoisting occurs in the scope where they are defined. So this greetme function has a global scope. A global scope means it exists in the global space. But this one, the greetme2 function, exists inside the local scope of the greetme. So it will be hoisted inside on top of the greetme scope. So this is what I can do. So if I come now, I can access greetme2 before it's initialized inside the scope of the greetme function. So let me just remove that. And then if we do run this, you can see now it is accessible. But we are still accessing it before we declare it because hoisting occurs by moving the declarations of a function to the top of the scope that they are defined in. So I hope that answers the question. And yeah, so let's continue. So that's hoisting in functions. So in a hoisting function, they are hoisted on top of the scope they are defined in. The greetme is hoisted on top of the global space. That's why we can access it. So hoisting in functions occurs such that even the logic inside the function is also hoisted. That's why you can see we are able to access it. So the next thing we need to talk about is hoisting in variables. We have three ways to create variables in JavaScript. We have the var, you can use the let keyword, and you can use the const keyword. So you're going to check each and individual variable creation way. So let's start with the var. So any variable hoisted with the var keyword. So any variable hoisted in the var keywords, the variable is hoisted, but it's assigned a default value of undefined until the actual value is initialized when the declaration line is executed. So what does that mean? So let's create a variable and call it const null. Yeah, you're going to use var. So var my name is equals to TechWithTwin. So what happens if I try accessing my name before initialization? So console.log my name. So what will happen? So if you do this, we get undefined. So we get undefined. So why do we get undefined? Because variables declared with the var keyword are hoisted. That means the interpreter knows that there is such a variable, because if the interpreter didn't know there is such a variable, we could not see undefined. Let me just show you. So Let's try accessing a variable called school. We don't have such a variable. Then we try running this. So we get school is not defined because there is no variable like school. But by using the my name, because it exists, that means that the interpreter is aware of such a variable existing. So to recap, a variable declared using the var keyword is hoisted, but it's initialized to undefined until the value. So let me just do console.log my name. So if we do this and then we run this code, you can see now after hoisting, the variable is declared to undefined, but after initialization, then the value is initialized as is expected. So let's move on. Let's move on to the let keyword. So any variable hoisted using the let keyword, the variable is hoisted, but it's not initialized to anything. It doesn't have a default value. So what does that mean? Yes, it will be hoisted, but the value is not. So let's use let now. So the variable is hoisted, but it doesn't have a default value. So let's see. So you can see we get an error, reference error, cannot access my name before it is initialized. So any variable hoisted, any variable that is declared using the let keyword is hoisted, but it's not initialized. So the interpreter already knows about the variable in that it is not initialized until it is in use. All right. Let's move on to the const. Now the const, it behaves the same way as the let keyword, such that we still get the same error. Cannot access my name before initialization. So the interpreter already knows about the whereabouts of the my name variable, but it is not initialized until the declaration line is reached. So let's move on to the final. Finally, let's talk about classes. Are classes hoisted? So let's create a class. So class animal. Then you create a constructor here. Then this dot name equals name. So is a class hoisted? So let's try. So let cow is equals to new animal cow. So let's see. Let's see when we run this, what will happen. We get an error. We get the same error that we cannot access the animal class before initialization. So the classes as well act as the let and the const, in that the compiler knows about the animal. So the animal class is hoisted, but we cannot use it until it is declared or the initialization occurs. So yeah, that's it, guys. So that's how hoisting works. So the key takeaway is that hoisting works well in function. So functions are hoisted with their own logic, as you saw that we could do greet me and access anything. They're hoisted on the scope they are defined in, and then all the other declarations. So the let is hoisted. Variables declared with the let, they are hoisted, but we cannot use them until they are initialized. The const as well and the classes as well. So yeah, that's it, guys. That's it about hoisting in JavaScript. Let me know in the comments. What do you think?